actually aware, because it's been going on for a number of years now, there are quite a few people being working actively to expose them?
I don't think they're very interested. I mean, they don't seem to care. I mean, if someone were to expose them, it's just the people that want to have them remain anonymous and are interested in that and like that idea are going to stick to it. And the people that haven't listened to the music enough to find that idea interesting don't care. I mean, it's a wonderful situation. You know, if you were to announce on the radio who they were, I don't think it would hurt the anonymous feeling very much to those that love the music and are interested in it who just don't want to know. They would just say, oh, okay, those are the names. And for those media people who don't understand the idea and think that there's some sort of interest in that, I mean, it doesn't seem to matter very much to anybody.
How do you know that the natives are here now?
How
do you know that?
How do you know the people in the eyeball heads are the residents?
No, how do you know that they are the residents?
No way of knowing. And I know for a fact that at one or two times there have been different people in the eyeballs. Although everything that all the information I have today is that this is them. But when I know it's around San Francisco where they know a lot of people the same build, I know that they'll stick most anybody in there. Or friends with Pete Best, one or the other. Right, but he's dead, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or M, the narrator. I come out after every 2 or 3 songs and explain what I feel is going on. I don't know if you were here early enough to hear me say that the way the script was put together was after I did a radio special for them, in which when I had never heard the residents, they locked me or had me stay in a motel room for 1 week, during which I listened to only residents' music and commented on it in a microphone.
What did you do before then?
I was a performer. I was in a show that ran in San Francisco that I wrote. Variety performer, comedian, whatever. And I had never heard of them. And I got a letter from this company that said, have you ever heard of the Residents or Ralph Records? I wrote back saying no. And 3 days later I got a contract saying, did I want to make X amount of money for being put in a room and listening to music? And I said, certainly. I went in there and listened to the music for 1 week, and they recorded 50 hours of me talking into a microphone alone, and then edited it down to an hour and a half, which was a radio special. I became a real fan of that music, and when the live show was coming, I got the same sort of mysterious letter in the mail saying, would I like to do the live show? And I said certainly, because at this point I was a fan. They sent me a computer printout of the whole show, all the lyrics, what the cutouts were going to look like, pictures, and then it had narrator Penn Jillette, which is my name, comes out and talks 1 minute. A little while later, 1.5 minutes. Yeah. And I would go into rehearsals and I would say whatever I felt like saying, and then I would get little letters back that said, Penn, real good, don't say this, or Penn, be a little meaner here.
So you never had any physical human contact, and you must have since.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're touring now, and it would be foolish and an insult to say that I'm not around them. I'm around the whole crew. I tend to enjoy them being anonymous so much that I tend to put it that I'm very polite about it. I've never gone up and directly addressed them. Never asked them any questions, and indeed have never even been told their names. I just kind of hang around, and I know when they want to tell me something, they will. So I do this kind of thing, and I struggle through.
Don't you get paranoid?
Extremely. Extremely paranoid. And I was asked once in the press conference if I felt I was manipulated. And the answer is most definitely and constantly. And but you trust the art, not the artist. And what they do is very, very good. And I'm proud to be part of it. And I put my ego aside a little bit.
You don't think there's any sinister kind of... you know, they're not a CIA group or anything
I
like
think there's most definitely sinister and most definitely not CIA. But I am being used, and I am being used because I'm the kind of person that would never have discovered the residents without them kind of hand-picking me. And even though I am pushed around and manipulated, it's also in a certain way flattering to be that kind of, we want him, even if they want me because I'm so outside of what they do.
So you said before there'd been some live work in America before this.
Oh yeah, we did 7 shows, 2 in San Francisco and 5 in Los Angeles, that went very well, and were a lot of fun.
Can you say what kind of audience globally there is for residential music? Do you have any idea?
Geez, that's even harder than answering who the residents are, who the residents' fans are. I was very taken by how diverse the audiences were, especially in San Francisco. In LA, I'm kind of afraid to say that one night it felt to me like the opening night, that people were there because it was the place to be. The nights when I believe that the real fans come, it's very diverse. There are people that look like your classic hippies and your classic punks, and there are people older than you'd expect to see at something that can be loosely called a rock or pop show. I was quite taken with how diverse it was. I was very happy. I was afraid we might get just whoever happened to like them this week, you know. But there seems like there's a lot of people who seem to know what's going on with the residents.
Do you know? Do you have sort of contracts? Do you know how long you're going to be involved?
I know that we're doing the 6 weeks in Europe, and I was sure that at least me and probably the show was all done at the end of Los Angeles, because it had gone very well, but it seemed like we fulfilled everything, and I had spent all my time with the press being confused, which seemed to be what they wanted, and then they went to a lot of trouble to work around my schedule to do Europe. So now I'm very hesitant to say no, because I said
you do other things as well, then?
Oh, I'm an awful lot. Yeah, I do. I work in a magic show, and I was a circus juggler and fire eater, and I do an awful lot of writing. I write plays and so on.
Well, as Penn Jillette?
As Penn Jillette, yes.
So it wasn't a, you didn't get the name and
oh no,
persona to go with your job?
I didn't get, the name was given to me by my parents, so that's where I got that, and the persona is pretty much what I've always done in my performing, except that I'm much more used to being in control. The show that I ran in San Francisco for 3 years, I wrote and directed and produced and starred in, and that's a much different feeling of control than being with the residents, where I have much less insight than your average actor. I mean, I have just nothing. I mean, I actually create the words that I say, but have no idea what I'm going for. So it's a pretty interesting experiment, and I think I would feel much more paranoid and much more manipulated if I didn't have some sort of awareness of the big picture. I find it a certain amount of charm in taking someone from an entirely different walk of life, picking them out and saying, you're in charge, you're going to talk to the press. There's something pretty interesting about that. I'm very glad I'm aware of it. I'd probably have a breakdown.
So you have no idea what the residents' personal lives are like, or if they have alternative lives, as has been suggested in the past. There was one theory that they were all Berkeley professors, which was amusing.
That is very amusing, and I think that those kind of theories for me, which I entertain those, have got a little bit less credibility because they're able to take those chunks of time to do this. My guess is, if you wanted a real honest guess, that it's probably just pretty dull and uninteresting. I imagine if there was a flashy enough, interesting enough story, that some record company person somewhere who found out would have pushed for it, as opposed to what all the business people have been very content doing, which is sticking with the anonymous. I'm a little bit cynical in that. I think if there was an incredibly good story there, someone would have forced it out.
So what's the record company situation at the moment, like in America?
I think they're still with what's called New Ralph, although New Ralph and Cryptic Corporation have been going through such turmoil that I'm very glad I'm not involved directly.
But it's very independent. I mean, it's not. It seems to have kept its all the way through their careers, as far as I know. They've stayed away from majors.
They've stayed away completely, and there was talk once we got out in L.A., as I said, was extremely successful. Excuse me. There was talk of more major recording contract, and that never materialized. And I don't have the information as to what side it didn't materialize on. It's very possible they weren't as interested as they thought, or it's possible that the residents didn't want it. But that's the business end of this residence Cryptic Ralph Records over here in London. It's information that I suppose I have access to, but I don't care. Too confusing for me.